Around our planet, humanity faces many shared and serious challenges. Recurring global economic crises, climate change, inequalities in development and human rights, armed conflict, terrorism, and nuclear risks. As we face these dangers together, the world needs credible and sustained leadership. How can we find solutions to these shared problems that are essentially political? How do we overcome systemic resistance to change? Many good ideas exist for innovation, but how do we build bridges from knowledge to power? The Center for International Governance Innovation, CIGI, is an independent, non-partisan think tank that researches and promotes innovation in global governance. CIGI was founded in 2001 in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Through research and policy development in international governance, CIGI aims to contribute to a more prosperous, sustainable, equitable, and peaceful world.
No matter what measurements you use, there are clear gaps in the global mechanisms for dealing with our biggest problems, whether it's prosperity, sustainability, security, or development. There continues to be a need for strong and informed leadership, so it's vital that our world leaders are supported by the best minds available.
The challenges facing the world are growing more complex. So if you look at the global financial crisis, where we continue to face the aftermath, if you look at the questions of climate change, if you look at issues of nuclear safety, these are all global issues which we confront together and which no government by itself can resolve.
CIGI is one of a handful of international research centers that are at the forefront of research on international governance innovation. CIGI is developing the ideas that will inform governance decisions for the next decades and generations to come.
CIGI's impact and influence has been driven by the organization's commitment to produce high-caliber research to inform policy and improve the quality of life globally.
Research is done in various ways for various reasons. CIGI's mandate really is driven by a series of large questions around the future of global society and global concerns, a recognition that there are large challenges that can't be addressed by a single country, a single sovereign state or government. I think CIGI research is targeted to influence the policy community, but hopefully because it's based on strong empirical work, theoretically informed, it should also resonate with the larger research community. It should resonate with universities, both faculty and students, and should inform public debate.
CIGI has very strong research capacity both in-house and through a network that is global. But just as important, if not more important, it has the capacity to move ideas into the public space and make them happen.
A think tank's measure of worth is, in part, to be able to point to specific policy outcomes and say that it made a real contribution. In less than a decade, CIGI has already established a pattern of success.
CIGI is one of the only think tanks that can claim not just to have studied, but also to help bring into being an international framework of countries. CIGI's path-breaking L20 studies resulted in part in the creation of the G20 grouping. So I think CIGI has gone from kind of theory to practice in a remarkable way.
What I appreciate about CIGI especially is that I think they do a great job of keying into the forces of change in this world and having a very strong grasp of their implications for global governance.
CIGI is rare in Canada for being such a big and influential think tank. I think we need a lot more CIGIs, frankly, in order to inform the level of sophistication in Canadian foreign policy debate.
In just 10 short years, CIGI has established itself as the premier institution studying global institutional reform, and wish you the best for the next 10 years.
It's always difficult to understand what the work of a think tank is. It is a bit like water on a stone, but I do think CIGI's softening things up. Well, CIGI helps keep issues on the agenda, issues that remain important even though they may not be the fashion of the moment. That's extraordinarily important.
I think we all understand just how important CIGI was to the elevation of the G20 to the leaders level. In those early days, the network that CIGI built up, the research, the analysis that it provided was absolutely essential to the G20 success and to its acceptability all through the countries who make up the G20, and as well those countries who unfortunately, for one reason or another, are not part of it. But what we should also understand is just how important CIGI is going ahead. The G20 is still in its early days. And to be able to deal with the fundamental issues, especially at this very delicate time, as the West seems to slow down and the East is surging, is going to be very, very important as we establish that equilibrium. CIGI is going to play an important role in all of this. Its research, its analysis, and its ability to deal with these issues. And I'm very proud to have worked with them throughout this period.
We say that we try and bring knowledge to power, and that really is our objective, and we do that through world-class research and through effective networks.
We've been the recipients of incredibly good fortune. We've always been able to attract world-class expertise to CIGI, and that's led us not only to have great impact, but it has also set us in the right direction for the future.
Located on the site of the former Seagram distillery in Waterloo, Ontario, the CIGI Campus is a hub of academic and research organizations focused on international affairs. In 1857, William Hespeler developed this land and transformed it into a mill, later purchased by Seagrams. Employing 250 people at its peak, the distillery was a major producer and exporter of whiskey. One of its barrel warehouses later became the Seagram Museum and then, in 2003, was converted to the CIGI offices. To create the new CIGI Campus as a vibrant sanctuary for learning and aligned with CIGI's mission required an architectural firm with a bold vision.
The issue of sustainability of the planet in the future seemed to be entirely relevant to the design of this project. And as architects, it is our mandate to do what we can to build green design in all our buildings. The strategies we used were we created an excellent exterior envelope for the building. We created green roofs at multiple levels. And we also used radiant heating and cooling in the slabs, which is a very energy effective way and a very comfortable way to introduce heating and cooling into the building. So we needed to span about 40 feet for the classrooms. Instead of doing that with conventional slab and beams, which would be about 2.5 feet in depth, we used a product that came from Europe, which is called Bubble Deck. It's about 14 inches deep, and the brilliance of it is that in the center of the slab, where you don't require any material for compression or tension, it has these giant golf balls, which are kind of the size of beach balls, and that saves you about 30% of concrete.
The CIGI campus includes CIGI itself, as well as the Balsillies School of International Affairs. The Balsillies School was founded in 2007 and is a three-way partnership among CIGI, the University of Waterloo, and Wilfrid Laurier University. Other occupants of the campus will be announced over time, including a proposed international law program.
A number of parties came together to collaborate and provide generous support that's helped make this campus the reality that you see behind me. Firstly, the City of Waterloo, which provided the land for this project here in the center of the city. Jim Balsillies, who's been a tremendous supporter both for the building itself, but also through the establishment of CIGI, which celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, and for the Balsillies School of International Affairs, which will occupy a large part of this new campus. The governments of Canada and Ontario, which have provided generous support for the building through the Knowledge Infrastructure Program, and our two academic partners here in Waterloo, the two local universities, which have collaborated with us. It's this collaboration and this support that is going to allow us to fulfill a new vision we have for better educating the next generation of policy leaders in Canada, both in government and in the private sector.
The city of Waterloo is an exciting, engaged, multicultural community, rich with international citizens, companies, and organizations. We have been identified as one of the world's most intelligent communities, and by partnering on an innovative project such as the CIGI Campus, we can live up to that title.
So the exciting thing about the new CIGI Campus is, of course, it brings together established policymakers, people with a great deal of experience in international relations and international economics, and leading academic thinkers. And of course, it matches them up with new learners, people who are just entering the field, and of course creates that wonderful dynamic and also allows us to train the future leaders of tomorrow.
The Government of Canada has a vision to enhance research, foster innovation, and to improve the educational experience. And that's why I'm so proud that we've entered into this partnership with CIGI. The CIGI Campus reinforces the idea that Canada plays a very important role on the world stage.
With strong partners like CIGI and Wilfrid Laurier University, we will have a great opportunity to explore new, innovating and exciting ways to develop the next generation of public policy leaders.
Well, I think the entire activity around CIGI, BSIA, law school coming in, I think it's going to create a powerhouse. It's going to enable Canada to reach a new level of prominence, preeminence even in the global stage of thinking about public policy and governance. Jim Balsillies' extraordinary contribution and vision have enabled us to achieve this. I'm delighted to be a partner in it.
Well, CIGI has had remarkable success in recruiting top scholars in the last year. In addition, through the public's events, it offers research programs such as INET and the opportunities it provides to master's students through its fellowship program. Working in such proximity to CIGI has given me great access to academic resources and also to programming.
The world is facing some truly extraordinary problems these days. We've seen them in our own lives with the economic crisis in the last few years that has spread from one side of the planet to the other. We know we're facing climate change and energy scarcity, mass migrations from one part of the planet to the other, and things like pandemic diseases. We don't seem to have very good solutions for these problems, especially at the international level. But the CIGI Campus will be a place where people can come together to think deeply about how to solve these problems and develop the ideas for new institutions and laws and organizations that will change the world and make it a very much better place.
Copper, stone, wood, grass, open space. Together, these natural elements combine to create a peaceful refuge at the center of the CIGI campus. Public art invites us to reconsider how we see the world. It can surprise us, delight us, and fill us with wonder. Public art elevates the human experience and brings new meaning to the experiences of everyday living. Richard Fleischner is an internationally recognized artist and the creator of a new artwork at the CIGI campus.
When we imagined this campus, public art was always a part of the project. Of course, there's a strong connection between the creative work that researchers and students do and the creative process pursued by artists. Richard's art piece brings this area to life, and it engages anyone who walks through it to consider what this campus is about. We wanted exactly that, a challenging piece that would compel someone to think a little bit longer about why the people on this campus have come together.
With a vision so strongly articulated and supported, CIGI had to find the right artist to satisfy the courtyard space.
It was Jim Balsillies' idea to have the art installation in the courtyard, and the art committee thought it was a wonderful idea, and that's the direction that we then gave to all the competing artists. The piece that was selected by Richard Fleischner was clearly, from the very start, a very, very interesting proposition, as its concept was really rooted in what CIGI does.
Richard Fleischner is well recognized for his creation of many art installations across the world. His attention to detail, his focus on concepts, and his consideration of the peripheral elements makes this particular work exist vibrantly on the CIGI campus.
The built projects, which I've been doing for 45 years, they all respond to the particular place in which they exist. I love sort of an asymmetrical symmetry. I love geometry. I love the play of organic and inorganic. People tend to think of art as something quite decorative. And what I do is, it's not about pretty. It's very much a thought-provoking process. Again, it has so much to do with the issues this place wants to address. It's about understanding.
What the artist has then done is he has these copper markers distributed through the grass. And what they are is they are actually on the points, according to the invisible world map below the whole piece, they identify places where very, very important issues or events have taken place related to global governance.
A number of events have shaped world history and how individuals interact with each other across border and how nation states interact with each other. The sealing of the Magna Carta by King John in Runnymede, England in June 1215 is important to international governance history because it led to the rule of constitutional law in the English-speaking world. Through this document, the king proclaimed certain liberties and accepted that his will was not arbitrary. It established the modern concept of individual rights and the obligations of the state to its citizens. The French Revolution, which began in Paris in 1789, is another monumental event that, in spite of its terrible excesses, helped shape the modern world. It gave birth to structures and documents that continue to influence modern governance globally. It also sparked the Napoleonic Wars, which led, after the defeat of Napoleon, to the Congress of Vienna, a precursor to the League of Nations and, eventually, the United Nations. In February 1863, in Geneva, Switzerland, another major event occurred when the International Committee of the Red Cross convened for the first time. The Red Cross is now an international organization whose worldwide mission is to help victims of conflicts and internal violence, whoever they are. The signing of the Charter of the United Nations in San Francisco in June 1945, in the closing days of World War II, is another key moment in international governance history. Founded as a replacement for the ineffectual League of Nations, the UN was created to stop wars and provide a platform for dialogue among nations. And with 193 member nations as of 2011, the UN represents humanity's most comprehensive effort to date to maintain peace and promote cooperation in addressing economic and humanitarian problems.
The artistic process is a creative journey. It influences communities and cultures. In recognizing 19 world-changing events, we recognize that this campus is about contributing to an evolving world of global interaction and cooperation.
This public art is a hallmark of the new CIGI Campus. I hope that when people experience it, they consider the accomplishments humankind has achieved for the betterment of the world and are inspired to see more milestones added over the years to come. Strong and informed leadership, so it's vital that our world leaders are supported by the best minds available.
The challenges facing the world are growing more complex. So if you look at the global financial crisis, where we continue to face the aftermath, if you look at the questions of climate change, if you look at issues of nuclear safety, these are all global issues which we can...
Research and policy development in international governance, CIGI aims to contribute to a more prosperous, sustainable, equitable, and peaceful world.
No matter what measurements you use, there are clear gaps in the global mechanisms for dealing with our biggest problems, whether it's prosperity, sustainability, security, or development. There continues to be a need for
credible and sustained leadership. How can we find solutions to these shared problems that are essentially political? How do we overcome systemic resistance to change? Many good ideas exist for innovation, but how do we build bridges from knowledge to power? The Center for International Governance Innovation, CIGI, is an independent, non-partisan think tank that researches and promotes innovation in global governance. CIGI was founded in 2001 in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Through research around our planet, humanity faces many shared and serious challenges: recurring global economic crises, climate change, inequalities in development and human rights, armed conflict, terrorism, and nuclear risks. As we face these dangers together, the world